Hey, what's up? I just want to do a quick little video talking about these blasters here. These are the Bespin blasters from The Empire Strikes Back. They both look very similar, and the reason being is because they built two of them on real Mausers so they could shoot blanks. And this one is predominantly associated with Han Solo because of the silver flash hider and the full light port. From publicity stills you can see Solo holding it up, you know, and then also from publicity stills you can see Luke with the dark flash hider and the 3/4 light port, you know. And mostly in the halls of Bespin you see Luke running around with this style blaster as well. But you do see him have this one in his hand when he first meets Yoda. It's a silver light port. You can see him pull it out on it. Silver flash hider, sorry. Speaking of the light ports, so this one has a full light port on it, again associated with Solo. And Luke's is going to have a 3/4 light port. That's that thing right there. But it's, you know, it's subjective. These are both seen in both actors' hands. Like when Solo encounters Vader and he pulls it out, his blaster, and shoots him. There's behind the scenes footage, I'll put it up here, where, you know, he shoots and then he's holding it like this and drops it, and someone comes in, hands another blaster, and he shoots that one. So you know he's using both in that scene. And what makes a lot of things confusing are two things. One, they use many different versions of these blasters. There's a Hoth blaster, the Dagobah stunt blaster, and these Bespin blasters, right? And they all look different. And then Master Replica, when they made their blasters for Empire Strikes Back, when they were hired by Lucasfilm, they made two. They made Luke's blaster, which is a great representation of Luke's blaster. They got a lot of the details right. They missed some things, but you know, for the most part, it's a really good representation. And then they made Solo's blaster. But the problem with Solo's blaster is they added the greeblies from his Hoth blaster, which is this is the Hoth blaster. You know, it's got a different mount on it and such, different flash hider. But these greeblies here, they just added these greeblies because you can see Solo on screen on when they shoot the Imperial Pro Droid holding this up, and you can clearly see these greeblies, right? So they put these greeblies onto their Master Replica blaster. But the problem is, so this side here was the Hoth style, but this whole side here, which they built, was the Bespin style. So a lot of people have that and just, you know, it's fine. You put it together, you have one blaster. But it's just confusing because if you want to actually have a screen accurate blaster, that's not the one you want. It's an idealized one, right? And as you can, as well as, you know, all these are certainly to an extent idealized because we don't know every detail about them. We know a lot. And what I mean by that as well, so the left side of Solo's blasters, a lot of people believe it's blank, or they don't necessarily believe it's blank, they just don't know what's on that side. They know that Luke's blaster only had one greebly because you can see that on screen, and some stills where it had two and it fell off, but in the film it only had one. Whereas with Solo's, there's no definitive picture of his Bespin blaster's left-hand side, right? But knowing that they built these blasters, and when props were building these blasters, we don't know exactly what they're doing, but they built two of them, and they look identical. In fact, when Solo is shooting at Vader, you know, he shoots the one time, and then the props department, I'll put it up here, hands him another blaster and he shoots that one. So we know he uses both those blasters in that scene alone. And there's an over the shot, and you can see something on Solo's left-hand side. You can't make it out, but theoretically, knowing they built these identical, it only makes sense that they would add the same greebly onto it. So this is actually for someone. I built this for someone, and I always, if I have the option, I will give them the option whether they want the greebly or not. It's totally subjective. I like it there because it puts something on that side opposed to it being blank. And there's pictures, again, I'll put it up here, of Solo holding a Bespin style blaster with something on this side. Can't make it out, but it only makes sense that it would be a greebly similar to this. But other than the flash hiders being a different color and the light port being a full and 3/4, these blasters are identical. Even though Solo's is referred to as a DL-44, and I believe Luke's is referred to as a Mirasan 57, That name came later. Another thing too is it's really hard to tell, but on Luke's blaster, it looks like the screw is inside the other way. It's probably the same on Solo's, but it's really hard to tell. For the Allen wrench to tighten it in, they're able to get it on this side and tighten it in. So that's when I build Luke's. I generally build it like this. Not always, but you know, it's all this stuff is fully subjective. Luke's mount is a little different from Solo's. It's got softer corners up here, whereas Solo's is a little more. It's still soft, but it's more of a corner. But otherwise, the Bespin blasters, there's two versions of them. They're both pretty identical to each other. And if you're going to have a blaster from Empire Strikes Back and you want one that represents, it's great because both these blasters individually represent both characters equally well. And now this is built on a Denix, and the whole top's been modified. It's been slid forward, and I sub in a new trigger and a new hammer, both of which are identical to a real live fire. So it's a great representation of the prop. I mean, this is subjectively, obviously, and I built it, so you know, I'm a little biased. But even the top as well, like I milled it all these details. It's an extra part for the extraction mark. All this is shaved down flat and milled in, and yeah, so it really does represent the prop itself really well. And you know, so the basic point of this video is to show how similar these two props are, if not identical, they are to each other. So if you have either one of these, you are set. And if you wanted to choose one or the other, you could. That's the nice thing is you can choose how you want it to look, and each one is going to represent each actor. But predominantly this one is associated with Luke because of the flash hider, and you can see him running around the halls of Bespin with this darker burnt out flash hider. And with Solo, this one is pretty much associated with Solo because of the full-on silver flash hider, which you see when he's in the when they take that little pit stop in the worm's mouth, and also when he's shooting at Vader over here like this, you can see the silver flash hider on it as well. But yeah, that's going to be the biggest differences between these two props. If someone says, well, what's the biggest difference between the Bespin props, Luke's and Han's? Well, the flash hiders and the light ports. You know, but just know that each actor's seen with both props throughout the film. So you can't really go wrong with it. And the Bespin props have very limited greeblies on the left side, if any at all. Like we know Luke's has at least one. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully that helped a little bit, clarify some info. If you have any questions or comments, please leave it below. And yeah, take care of yourselves, guys. Peace out.